I woke up to my phone buzzing at 2:13 a.m. in the barracks. Normally, I'd ignore it. Nothing good comes from late-night calls when you're deployed. But this wasn't a call. It was a notification from my home security system back in North Carolina. Motion detected in the living room. I sat up in bed, heart hammering, and opened the feed. A man I didn't recognize was walking through my house. Shirtless, comfortable, holding a beer from my fridge like he owned the place. A moment later, I saw her. My wife, Claire. She laughed as he kissed her neck, then disappeared out of frame with him. I stayed at the screen, numb, thousands of miles away, in the desert, carrying an M4 and wearing body armor, and my life was being ripped apart in real time by a man in basketball shorts in my living room. I didn't scream, didn't throw my phone. Instead, I leaned back against the metal bunk and whispered to myself the same thing I always said before a mission. Stay calm, stay sharp, finish it. That was the night everything changed. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I kept the feed open on my phone until the battery ran red, watching pieces of my life collapse in shaky night vision frames. Claire and the stranger moved in and out of view, sometimes laughing, sometimes arguing, sometimes just sitting on the couch I bought before deployment, drinking my beer, living my life. By morning, I was hollow. Not angry yet, just empty. I went through the motions, strapped on my vest, checked my rifle, rode out in the convoy. Nobody around me knew that while they were scanning rooftops for threats, I was replaying the image of my wife with another man in my living room. Out here, your head is to be clear. Distraction gets people killed. But I couldn't clear it. Not this time. That evening, after we rolled back inside the wire, I borrowed satellite minutes and called her. Claire, I said. A pause. Then her voice, smooth as ever. Hey, you. Didn't expect to hear from you tonight. I almost laughed. My throat burned. Who's in the house? Silence stretched on the line. I saw him, I said flatly, on the security cam. He was drinking from my fridge. Her inhale was sharp, panicked, but she covered it quickly. David, I don't know what you think you saw. Don't. I cut in. Don't lie. Just tell me who he is. She exhaled, long and slow, and when she finally spoke, her voice was colder. You're not here. You don't understand. Things have been hard. Hard. That word cracked something in me. I was busting my back in the desert, sweating through body armor, risking my life for 18 months straight, and she called her loneliness hard. Claire, I said, my voice low, steady, dangerous. Don't make this worse than it already is. That was when she slipped, just a little. Her voice trembled as she whispered, It's not what you think. There are things going on you don't know about. What things? I pressed. She hesitated. Then she hung up. For the next week, I couldn't shake those words. Things going on you don't know about. Affairs are simple. Ugly, painful, but simple. You see it, you believe it, you leave. But the way she said it, the fear in her voice, made it sound like something more. That's when the late-night emails started. At first, I thought they were spam. Subject lines like, you don't know what she's hiding, and check your accounts. They came from a burner address, no name, no signature. I almost deleted them until I opened one. Inside was a single attachment, a PDF of a mortgage document with my name on it, except I hadn't signed it. The next day, I cornered Staff Sergeant Lewis, who used to work finance before re-enlisting. How hard is it to forge a signature? I asked him. He raised a brow. Depends who's doing it. Banks check, but half the time it's just a rubber stamp. Why? I didn't answer. Instead, that night, I used another precious 15 minutes of satellite time to log into my bank account. My hand shook as I typed, and then my stomach dropped. Lines of transactions I didn't recognize. Wire transfers, withdrawals, loans in my name, tens of thousands gone. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a setup. I felt the walls closing around me. It was one thing to lose a marriage, but this was war on a different front. I knew I couldn't handle it alone. So I reached out to the only person I trusted back home, Mark, my old buddy from the Corps. Retired now, working private security in Texas. I sent him a secure email with everything. Screenshots, mortgage doc, the strange emails. Told him to dig. 3 days later, he replied, "Brother, this goes deeper than Claire. She's not just cheating. She's tied to a guy named Victor Hale, runs property scams out of Raleigh. Feds have been circling him for years. Guess what? Your name is on 3 of his shell companies. You're on the hook unless you prove otherwise." I read the words over and over until they blurred. Shell companies. My name. Fraud. I wasn't just betrayed. I was being used. I didn't confront Claire again. Not yet. Instead, I waited. Watched. Planned. The mysterious emails kept coming. Some were documents. Some were warnings. One simply said, "Meet me when you're stateside. I can help." I had no idea who was sending them, friend or trap, but I knew one thing. When I got back, my war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Coming home from deployment is supposed to feel like stepping out of hell and into peace. This time, it felt like stepping out of one battlefield and into another. The air smelled different the moment I landed at Raleigh-Durham. Not fresh, not free, just heavy, like the humidity carried secrets in it. Claire wasn't at the gate. I didn't expect her to be. I took a cab straight to my house, the one I hadn't set foot in for 18 months. When I opened the door, everything looked the same. Couch, TV, framed pictures on the wall. But there was a new rug, new glasses in the cabinet, new shoes by the door that weren't mine. I walked through each room like a stranger touring a crime scene. And in a way, that's what it was. My crime scene. The fridge hummed. The couch cushions sagged in the middle. My life had been lived in by someone else. Claire came home 2 hours later. I heard the garage door before I saw her. When she walked in, grocery bags in her arms, her eyes widened. "David!" I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Long time." She set the bags down slowly, like she was handling explosives. I didn't know you were back already." Clearly. Silence stretched between us. "Finally," she said, "we need to talk." I held up a stack of papers I'd found in the study drawer. Mortgage forms. Loan approvals. My name scribbled on everyone. "Yeah, we do." Her face drained of color. "You forged my signature," I said. "No question, just fact." She swallowed hard. "David, listen." "Who's Hale?" I snapped. That broke her. Her knees buckled, and she sank into a chair. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she whispered. I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Oh, you didn't want me to find out my identity's been stolen. And my marriage was a joke? Real considerate." Tears welled in her eyes, but I'd seen her cry before. I wasn't moved. "Claire, answer the question. Who is Victor Hale?" She hesitated. Then, finally, his is dangerous, David. He helps people fix their finances. He said he could make things better for us. Pay off debts. Cover the mortgage. It started small, but then she buried her face in her hands. I got in too deep. I clenched my fists until my knuckles popped. "So you sold me out. Signed my name on his deals." "I didn't have a choice," she whispered. There it was. The coward's refrain. "You always have a choice," I said. "And you chose him." I didn't hit her. Didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. I just walked out the door and slammed it hard enough to rattle the frames on the wall. Because anger could wait. What I needed now was proof. That night, I met Mark in a diner off I-40. Same guy I'd emailed from overseas. His beard was longer now, but his eyes were the same. Sharp, scanning, like he saw every angle at once. "You look like hell," he said as I slid into the booth. "Been living in it," I muttered. He handed me a folder. "Hale's the real deal, and by that I mean a real piece of shit. Runs property scams, identity theft, loan fraud. Uses women to get to their husbands. You're not the first soldier he's burned." My chest tightened. "So Claire is just, what, another pawn?" Mark shrugged. "Pawn, partner, victim, who knows? But I pulled some records. 3 shell companies list you as a co-owner. That's federal prison time if you don't clear it. I flipped through the documents. My name, bold as day, signed under corporate bylaws I'd never seen. Jesus Christ, I muttered. Mark leaned in. And it gets worse. One of those companies is under investigation by the FBI already. You're on their radar whether you like it or not. I sat back, stunned. So this was the truth. Not just betrayal of the heart, but betrayal of identity, of freedom. Claire hadn't just cheated. She'd handed me over to a criminal. What do? I asked. Mark smirked, the way he used to before we kicked down doors. Simple. We play it like a mission. Gather intel. Control the narrative. And when the time's right, he tapped the folder. We burn Hale down. Over the next week, we dug. I followed Claire sometimes. Careful. Quiet. She met Hale twice, once at a cafe, once outside an office building. He was tall, clean-cut, expensive suit, the kind of guy who looked more like a politician than a con man. But his eyes gave him away. Cold, calculating, like a snake measuring its next meal. Meanwhile, Mark traced money. Wire transfers led to holding companies in Delaware, Cayman accounts, all tied back to Hale. The man was a spider, and Claire was tangled in his web. Then came the break. The mysterious emailer struck again. This time, the subject line read, FBI meeting. Tomorrow. Trust me. Attached was an address in downtown Raleigh. Mark and I debated for hours. Could be a trap, he warned. Could be our only shot, I countered. In the end, we went. The address turned out to be a cafe, quiet, half empty. We walked in, scanned the room, and then I saw her, a woman in her 30s, neat blazer, laptop open in front of her. She looked up and locked eyes with me. Then she typed something on her screen, turned it around. One word glowed in bold letters, FBI. We sat down across from her. Agent Rivera, she said quietly. I've been tracking Hale for 3 years. You're the missing piece. I stared at her. Me. She nodded. Your name is on his companies. Your wife is his link. But you're the one who can help us prove intent. We need a witness inside. Someone he trusts enough to slip. I glanced at Mark, who raised his eyebrows like here we go again. Rivera leaned in. Help us, and we can clear your name. Walk away clean. But if you don't, she closed the laptop with a snap. You'll go down with him. I didn't answer right away. I thought about Claire, about Hale, about the desert nights when I repeated stay calm, stay sharp, finish it. Finally, I said, what do you need me to do? Rivera smiled, just a little. Simple. Pretend you're still in the dark. Play the betrayed husband. And let us wire you up for when Hale finally approaches you. That was the night my new mission began. Not in a combat zone, not with an M4, but in my own backyard against an enemy who wore a suit and drank beer from my fridge. And this time, the stakes weren't just life or death. They were freedom. The first time I wore a wire, it wasn't in some dusty Middle Eastern street with insurgents waiting around the corner. It was in a Holiday Inn off I-95, with a federal agent taping a microphone to my chest while a TV in the background played late-night reruns of Jeopardy. Agent Rivera worked quickly, businesslike. Keep your movements natural. Don't fidget. And for God's sake, don't tap it. I gave a dry chuckle. I was infantry for 20 years. I know how to sit still. She raised an eyebrow. Good. Then sit still long enough to let Hale incriminate himself. Mark sat in the corner, arms crossed, watching. He didn't like this plan. I could tell by the way his jaw flexed every time Rivera spoke, but he knew it was the only way. When Rivera finished adjusting the wire, she handed me a burner phone. If he asks about Claire, stay vague. He already thinks he's got leverage. Play the hurt husband, not the angry soldier. The more you look broken, the more confident he'll get. I slipped the phone in my pocket, nodded once. Understood. Hale made the first move. I was standing in my front yard 2 days later, pretending to rake leaves, when a black BMW pulled up at the curb. Out stepped Victor Hale, tailored suit, watch worth more than my car, smile sharp as glass. David Briggs, he said like we were old friends. Finally back on American soil. I leaned on the rake. And you, He chuckled, stepping closer. Victor Hale. I think you've heard my name. Claire may have mentioned me. Mentioned you? I'd seen him in my damn living room. But I kept my face blank. She mentioned something. I said, didn't seem important. His smile twitched, just a hair, then snapped back into place. Well, it's important now. We need to talk. I gestured toward the porch. Fine, let's talk. We sat across from each other, him in my rocking chair, me on the steps. The rake lay beside me like a rifle I couldn't carry. You've been gone a long time, he said smoothly. And Claire, well, she needed help. Financial help. Emotional help. I stepped in where you couldn't. I let my jaw tighten, just enough for the wire to pick up. I noticed. He leaned forward, voice dropping. Here's the thing. Your name's on some documents. Business ventures. Let's call them. Very profitable ones. That's good news for both of us. I tilted my head. And the bad news. The FBI, he said flatly, they've been sniffing around. Nosy bastards. But if you play along, keep quiet, we can both walk away richer. I forced a bitter laugh. You forged my signature, and now you want me to keep quiet. He didn't flinch. I want you to be smart. Soldiers like you give everything to Uncle Sam, and what do you get in return? A pension that barely pays the bills. Let me show you another way. Rivera's voice echoed in my memory. Stay vague. Stay small. So I dropped my gaze, shook my head slowly. I just wanted a family. A wife who didn't give up on me. That cracked him. His smile widened, shock-like. Exactly. And look what loyalty got you. Nothing. Work with me, David. I'll make sure you never feel small again. Every word was going straight into the FBI van parked down the street. And all I could think was how badly I wanted to wipe that smug grin off his face. After he left, Rivera's team swarmed. She yanked the wire off me before I'd even stepped inside. You nailed it, she said, eyes alight. He offered conspiracy in his own words. That's huge. I wasn't celebrating. He's careful. He'll never put numbers or details on the table. Not unless he thinks I'm fully in. Rivera's smile faded. You're right. Which means you're going deeper. Mark cursed under his breath. This is insane. You're using him as bait. If Hale's suspect for even a second. Rivera cut him off. That's why we need you to play your role perfectly. If you don't, you're right, he'll bury you. I rubbed my face, exhausted. What's next? Rivera slid a card across the table. A date, a time, an address scrawled on the back. He invited you to a meeting with his buyers. You'll wear wire again. We'll be listening. The meeting was in an upscale restaurant downtown. Dim lighting, crystal glasses, the kind of place I'd never set foot in before. Hale ushered me to a table where two men in press suits were already seated. Their accents pegged them as East Coast money, hedge fund types, probably laundering cash through Hale shell companies. This is David Briggs, Hale introduced, clapping a hand on my shoulder. Former Army, reliable, trustworthy, a man who knows how to follow orders. I forced a polite nod. Nice to meet you. They barely looked at me. To them, I was just a name on paperwork, a useful idiot. Hale ordered wine, started talking numbers, units, returns, disbursements. I kept my face blank, but inside my pulse thundered. Every word was going straight to the FBI van parked across the street. At one point, Hale leaned close and murmured in my ear, "This is what winning feels like. David, stick with me, and you'll never lose again." I raised my glass, clinking it against his. To winning. He grinned. The other men grinned. And the wire hidden under my shirt hummed with every incriminating word. After the dinner, I walked alone through downtown, the cool night air heavy in my lungs. Rivera's voice still buzzed in my ear from the earpiece they planted. You did good. We've got conspiracy, fraud, intent. We're building the case. But I didn't feel good. I felt dirty. Complicit. Like every smile I'd faked at that table had cost me another piece of my soul. Because this wasn't just about catching a criminal. This was about Claire. Every time Hale bragged about his deals, about how easy it was to use people, I thought of her face. The night I saw her on my security camera, laughing with him in my house. And I wondered, was she just a pawn? Or was she sitting at that table in spirit, clinking a glass alongside him? That night, back in my motel room, my phone buzzed. A text from Claire. We need to talk. Please. I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then, against my better judgment, I typed, tomorrow, noon, the park, because I needed answers. Because sometimes, even when you know the truth will cut you open, you can't stop yourself from chasing it. The next day, I sat on a bench at the park. Families played frisbee, joggers passed by, kids fed ducks at the pond. And then she was there, Claire, my wife, the woman I'd once sworn to protect with my life. She sat down beside me, eyes red. David, I made a mistake. I didn't look at her. Which one? The affair? The forgery? Or handing my name to a crook? Her voice cracked. I didn't know what I was getting into. Hale, he promised me everything. Said you'd never come back, that I'd be left alone, broke, forgotten. I believed him. I clenched my jaw. You believed him more than me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I finally turned to face her. Sorry doesn't undo prison time. Sorry doesn't erase my name from his companies. Sorry doesn't give me back the life you threw away. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it back. I need you to tell me the truth, I said coldly. Were you just his pawn or his partner? Her silence told me everything. And in that silence, something inside me snapped shut. Not anger, not grief, just clarity. Claire was gone. And Hale? Hale was mine. The next time I saw Hale, I wasn't wired. It was by design. Rivera and her team thought I needed to keep him comfortable, let him believe I was fully in. We already have enough on him, she assured me. Now we're just padding the case. But I knew Hale wasn't stupid. He could smell a trap before the feds even laced their boots. Which was why, when his BMW rolled up outside my motel one rainy evening, I slipped my phone into the desk drawer and went down to meet him bare. He leaned against the hood, cigarette glowing between his fingers. You been quiet, Briggs. Busy. With the feds. His smile was lazy, dangerous. My pulse jumped, but I forced a scoff. If I was talking to them, you wouldn't be standing here right now. He studied me, smoke curling around his face. Then he flicked the cigarette into the gutter. Fair point. Let's take a drive. We rode in silence for 20 minutes, the city light smearing across the windshield. Finally, Hale spoke. You've done well so far. Kept your mouth shut. Showed up when I needed you. I reward loyalty. David. Always. Good to know. He glanced at me, eyes glinting. But loyalty can be tested. And right now, I need to know you're really mine. Something in his tone made my gut clench. How's that? He smiled, that shock grin again. There's a shipment tonight. Small. Nothing major. I want you to oversee the handoff. Consider it a trial by fire. I kept my voice level. Where? He rattled off an address. A warehouse near the docks. Midnight. I nodded once. I'll be there. When he dropped me back at the motel, I didn't waste a second. I pulled the burner from the drawer and dialed Rivera. His testing me. I told her. Warehouse job. Midnight. There was a pause. Then, we'll have eyes everywhere. Just show up. Keep him talking. Don't take possession of anything. Do not let him pin this on you. Copy. But as I hung up, a cold thought lodged in my chest. What if this wasn't just a test? What if it was a trap? The warehouse smelled of salt and rust, the air heavy with the stink of dead fish from the docks. A single van idled near the loading bay, its headlights slicing through the fog. Hale stood beside it, flanked by two men I didn't recognize. They were built like ex-linebackers, arms crossed, eyes flat. Right on time, Hale said as I approached. That's a good sign. I forced a smirk. You said trial by fire. Figured I'd better not be late. He chuckled, clapped my shoulder. Smart man. Now let's get this done. One of the linebackers opened the van. Inside were boxes, sealed tight. Merchandise, Hale said smoothly. Nothing you need to worry about. You just sign off, make sure it gets where it's going. I glanced at him. You want me to sign? Your name's already on the paperwork, he said, grin widening. Might as well make it official. My stomach twisted. This was it. The setup. Pen. I asked casually. He handed me one, sleek and heavy, gold-plated. I took it, staring down at the papers. That's when the night exploded. FBI. Hands where we can see them. Shouts, lights, the roar of engines. Black SUVs screeched in from every angle, doors flying open, agents pouring out. The linebackers froze, hands halfway to their jackets. Hale didn't flinch. Instead, he turned to me and smiled. You think I didn't know, he murmured. You've been sloppy, soldier, real sloppy. Before I could react, he yanked a pistol from under his jacket and shoved it into my ribs. Back up, he barked at the agents. Or Briggs here dies. Red dots from half a dozen rifles danced across his chest. Rivera's voice boomed through a megaphone. Put the gun down. Hale, it's over. He pressed the barrel harder against me. Not yet, sweetheart. Time slowed. I could feel the heat of the gun through my shirt. Hear Hale's breath steady in my ear. See the agent's fingers tighten on their triggers. And in that frozen second, I realized something. He didn't just want to escape. He wanted to take me down with him. Claire told me you'd fold, he whispered. She said you were too weak to survive without her. Guess she was right. That broke something in me. I'd swallowed betrayal. I'd endured humiliation. But hearing her name in his mouth, hearing her lies used as ammunition, that was a line. I moved. Fast. I slammed my elbow back into his ribs. Hard. The gun wavered, and I twisted, wrenching his wrist until bone cracked. The pistol clattered to the concrete. Agents surged forward, tackling him to the ground. The linebackers went down under a swarm of black vests and rifles. And just like that, it was over. Rivera was the first to reach me. You okay? I nodded, chest heaving. Better than him. Hale lay face down on the concrete, wrists zip-tied, blood seeping from a gash on his forehead. Even then, he was grinning. This isn't over, Briggs, he spat. You're already in it, deeper than you know. They dragged him away, his laughter echoing through the warehouse like broken glass. Later, in the back of an FBI sub, Rivera debriefed me. We've got him on fraud, conspiracy, attempted trafficking, unlawful possession of a firearm. His finished. Good, I muttered, but she wasn't smiling. He's right about one thing. Clay's tied to all of this. We have evidence, enough to charge her as a co-conspirator. The words hit harder than Hale's pistol ever could. She's my wife, I said hoarsely. Rivera's gaze was steady. She was also his partner. You have a choice, Briggs. Testify against her. I'll protect her and risk going down yourself. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling of the SUV, the weight of the night pressing down on me. Betrayal, fraud, setup, survival. Now it came down to this. Would I save Claire or finally let her drown? The courtroom was colder than any desert night I'd ever spent overseas. I sat at the witness stand, hands folded, chute stiff on my shoulders. Across the room, Victor Hale lounged in his chair like it was a throne, shackled wrists resting easy in his lap. He wore the same grin he'd had in my living room, in the warehouse, in every nightmare since. Beside him sat Claire, my wife, her hair tied back, her makeup pale, eyes hollow. She wouldn't look at me, not once. The prosecutor asked us questions. I answered them, steady as rifle fire. How Hale forged my name. How Claire introduced him into my life. How the fraud unraveled into a web of shell companies and stolen money. Every word tightened the rope around their necks. When it was over, I stepped down. Hale winked at me as I passed. Claire just stayed at the floor. The jury didn't take long. Guilty on all counts. Hale was sentenced first, 30 years, no parole. He laughed as they read it out, like prison was just another business opportunity. Clay's sentence came next. Conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, aiding and abetting. 15 years. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, she finally looked at me. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "I'm sorry, David." But I felt nothing. No rage. No grief. Just nothing. Because the woman I'd married had died long before the gavel hit the wood. After the trial, Rivera found me outside the courthouse. She handed me a folder. "Your accounts have been cleared. Your name's clean. The mortgage, the loans, all reversed. You're free." Free. I stood on the courthouse steps, folder heavy in my hands, watching the prison vans pull away. Hale in one, Claire in another, both fading into the distance. And I realized something. For the first time in years, I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a victim. I was just a man with scars, yes, but also a man with a future. Weeks later, I sat on my porch, the autumn wind rattling through the trees. The house was quiet, too quiet, but it was mine again. I thought about the night it all began, 2:13 a.m., grainy camera feed, Betrayal flickering on my phone. And I thought about how far I'd come since then. War had taught me survival. Betrayal had taught me clarity. And now I was ready to start over. Not with Claire, not with the ghost of what we'd been, but with myself. Because sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought overseas. They are fought in the silence of your own home. And this time, finally, I'd won.